Response video. I wasn't going to respond to this video. I didn't even watch it before. I just said, oh, yeah, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Skeptical heretic, blah, blah, blah. But then some other people have chimed in on this subject. The whole Sam Harris, objective morality kind of thing, or objective value, or however you want to describe it. His basic argument that this isn't that complicated, people. And, we certainly know the extremes. He's made that argument, and we can start identifying bad and good, and say it emphatically. The downside is Harris has become like a warmongering lunatic, kind of like what's his name, and yeah, I mean that's just too stupid. You fail that IQ test for me. Yeah, Muslims are crazy motherfuckers. They should have a babysitter. But you can't do it this way. You got to do it with an argument and all that kind of shit. That's the way you do it. So anyway, this skeptical heretic guy is really annoying. So I'll use this time code and start where it really got annoying. The first half of this video was just as boring could be. And then he finally starts saying a few things. And I just think they're crap. Absolute crap. Objectively crap.
Especially trouble. So as consistent as folks like integral math may think Harris's thought process is, I see the sins of the past given new weight through the applications of new science.
Right, so his argument is that somehow this intelligence thing isn't linear, that it doesn't have probably a plateau or a peak, that somehow we're going to keep discovering something new. There's always go west, my young man. There's always something west. No, the problem is it's just, it's a circular world. You're stuck. You're going to get to your tail, and that's the end. And intelligence has the same problem. The basic underlying mechanism is now revealed. Okay, the evidence is overwhelming, and you cannot, in my opinion, reasonably, logically, functionally, without having some catastrophic flaw in your understanding of logic and 2 + 2 and how you can interpret the evidence. There's no reasonable interpretation of all the evidence now that would include some phantasmagorical God bullshit. Alright, the facts are there. We know where we came from. Evolution is a fact. It can be said as a fact. It's as factual as smell under my armpits. It's just a goddamn fact. And that's the change. Alright, so you want to say the sins of the past. Well, the sins of the past was everybody didn't know anything. Alright, I mean, the amount of information we had was this big. Alright, the amount of information we have now is huge. In the last 200 years, we have gleaned a whole bunch of the pixels of the planet Earth. And we can resolve this thing now. We've got pictures of it from the moon. Alright, it's a different world. We have nuclear bombs. It's a different world. It's not the same world anymore, and we can behave differently based on the evidence. So it's just bullshit to say, oh, well, people have disagreed in the past, and it's, the people who thought they were right were wrong, and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, you can say that kind of crap, but, I mean, it is a different ball game, and some of this stuff now can be said. There's a point you're going to reach in any kind of linear game like that, all right, where you're peaking, and you're going to do that peak thing, and we're peaking, fucker.
And this is a cycle that we repeat very often.
Well, like I said, we're not getting more ignorant, we're getting more informed. And as you become more informed, it would be irresponsible to sit around and say, well, I guess we're too ignorant still. We're too ignorant still. You're going to say we're too ignorant forever? Forever you're going to say, well, they're entitled to their opinion. No, they're not anymore. Okay, because it's not reasonable anymore. The opinions aren't on a comparable level of evidentiary substance. Because we have gained information, now you can say things emphatically.
And so when I see people who are trying to shout me down for introducing examples of people that may not be the solid majority, I have to ask,
Yeah, well, whatever. So he's made this whole argument. Somehow Harris bases this all on some sort of, IQ test or some other kind of bullshit. And he really doesn't. He just says there's a realm of reasonable, and there's a whole bunch of shit that's outside that realm. And it's time we pointed to it and said, that's fucking batshit crazy.
These fine folks, what would they think of Harris's construct if he came up with it 500 years ago? And the minority were the atheists.
A newsflash, the minority is still the atheists. Okay, I mean, the construct is based on what can be logically inferred in evidence. So, I don't think Sam Harris would vote for, public opinion polls to decide all issues. So that's what you're implying, and that's not what he's talking about, from what I understand. So you want to correct me, fine, but that's not my understanding of his argument. His argument is there is stupid in the world, and let's just point to it and call it fucking stupid.
Because that's been done. The tests were different, but at the time, they were cutting edge.
Well, again, you're going to keep talking like it isn't a different world. Like there isn't a huge difference between having this many pixels of resolution and having this many pixels of resolution. Alright? We have a ton more information that imposes a responsibility to quit saying, I can't see it, I can't see it, I can't know it, I can't think it. Well, yes, you can. It's right in front of your face now. It's not foggy. You can't. It's not like looking at the clouds and you're going to turn into bunny rabbits or something. Or, oh, I think that's a rhinoceros and that's a hippopotamus named Fred. No, that's not what it is anymore. It's not fluffy and ambiguous. It's goddamn obvious now. And it's time for people like Sam Harris to say, the truth about our existence is goddamn obvious. All right? And let's just nail it down and start acting collectively in the interest of that truth. Because if we don't do that, alright, chaos isn't going to fucking work, asshole. So you can keep pretending that we're going to go do it, we'll do okay, respecting each other's opinion. No, we fucking goddamn won't. Because half the world is going to soil the other half of the world beyond recognition. We're going to shit the fuck on each other, and we're going to shit on each other's efforts to do anything constructive. There's no point in one man saying, I will do the honorable right thing, if everybody else is not going to do that.
So that's the question. When you're going to derive an ought from an is.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, you mean, you people really mean when you're going to is. All right, when you dare to say something actually is, that the evidence is conclusive, that there is no reasonable alternative explanation, that it's beyond, it is beyond, okay, reasonable contention, and we have facts that are that solid.
How do you know that your is accurate?
You test it. You test it to all these other theories that are just so conclusive, so reliable, so dependable. And you test it based on, well, how much evidence do we have that, the periodic table is accurately describing or ranking compounds based on atomic weight, and how good is that mechanism for how evidentiary is our detection devices and all this stuff, and you measure one theory against another theory, and how much proof was required to establish it as a fact, something you would risk your life on. I would risk my life on the fact, okay, of the information contained in the periodic table. All right, it doesn't tell all the story, but the story it tells is accurate. And I would walk that with a blindfold. All right, and there's a point where we have to just say that. And we have to say it especially in circumstances where we're living in times where if we don't act now, and we don't act decisively, we're going to fall the fuck into the abyss, asshole. And it's not going to be a graceful fall. We're not going to have a parachute. We're going to fall hard because of assholes who keep saying, we can't say anything. We can't is from an is. We can't is from evidence. Yeah, we can is from evidence.
And this is the central question of philosophy over science. science itself being merely a form of philosophy, a form of endeavor.
Well, I would say it the other way around. Philosophy is a form of science. Okay, it's logical deduction. That's what science does. It puts a theory on the table and it says, let's see if we can find the evidence to prove it. Okay, we have some evidence. Let's see if we can find more evidence. Let's see if we can verify it. Let's see if we can put it beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think there's logical arguments that Benatar presented and Sam Harris and other people. And I think those logical arguments are indestructible by any kind of reasonable counter-argument.
As so far it is the best tool we have to interrogate the nature of the universe around us. But it's a fool's errand to say that it is the only tool, or that there won't be a...
Well, I don't know what other tools there are. And some of these things are inaccessible by anything else but our perceptual senses. We have to model it in our head because it can't be modeled in reality. You can't do the experiment anywhere else but in imagination because the things are intangible. And something like the value weight of sentience is an intangible. You're not going to be able to measure it on some universal yardstick or resolve it in some other gamma radiation or something. You can't do it any other way by putting it inside of a head and comparing it to all the other references of reality, gravity and natural selection and the dynamics of the universe, and you put it in that context and you say, this is different, this is meaningful, this is something because it is so much different than the nothing.
That a tool that comes down the road in the future, no matter how descriptive science may be.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. This prospect. Here we are almost at the top of the mountain, and you people are still like, well, there's still so much more we don't know. No, we know what we are, asshole. You want to keep pretending with your glasses and your little bullshit that you're not just a goddamn minky? No, you're a goddamn minky with a little bit of a tool of a scheming brain that can contrive rationalizations and crap to defend bullshit. And that's all you're doing. You're creating a bullshit statue to defend your crap philosophy. Your crap ideology of I want to do whatever the fuck I want. I don't want anybody else saying they know that I'm an asshole. Well, I'm going to say I know you're an asshole if you want to do something goddamn stupid.
Ideas, like Harris's in a bubble, aren't dangerous. And dangerous ideas aren't necessarily a bad thing.
No, whatever that means. Let's just keep blowing stuff up. The word dangerous implies something. It implies not necessarily that something is going to blow up. It just means that it has the risk of blowing up. So risk is inherently not a great thing. You want to avoid risk. It's risk aversion. That's a good concept. And it's only a bad concept when you have, when people accuse you of having too much of it. All right? But the idea of it is perfectly rational. Risk is not a good thing.
Aren't necessarily false. But when we try to prescribe morality to an amoral process.
Oh, again. Okay, so when we try to apply morality to an amoral process, because the process is stupid, we can't judge the act. So because the criminal is dumb, we can't judge the rape. We can't judge his behavior. Just because he's stupid. Somehow the behavior is exempt. The natural system has made a world. Okay? We can judge that world. We can judge the components in that world. We can judge cultures. We can judge all of this crap. The fact that chaos made it, or an illusion of randomness, which doesn't even exist in a deterministic universe, but the fact that it's basically guided by circumstantial rules that are crude and simple, like gravity and the attractions of chemistry and weak and strong forces and all of this crap that has created the whole thing incidentally. That's the mechanism of control in the machinery. The fact that these control mechanisms are dirt simple does not mean we can't judge the product. Fuck.
Like scientific discovery. The potential for an utter destruction of the well-being of conscious creatures, as Harris puts it, is large.
Yeah, says you. Like I said, I think the much larger risk, okay, isn't Sam Harris. It is exactly what he's pointing at and saying this is what's running the world. Assholes who don't even know what a blade of grass is made out of. Assholes who don't understand any of these concepts of what fucking world they're living in. They don't even know how many people are on Earth and they have babies. I mean, these human beings are suck goddamn stupid. Alright, so it's kind of idiotic to sit there and point to the guy who actually has an education, who's actually applying logic to his knowledge, alright, and say that's the dangerous one. Okay, it's not these fucknuts who are running the goddamn, driving the goddamn bus. These assholes who don't know what a bus is, they don't know what wheels are, they don't know what physics is, they don't know what force is, they don't know a goddamn thing about anything, and they're sitting in the driver's seat, shithead. And you're not worried about that?
So to sit there and blindly swallow it.
Yeah, well, whoever you're talking to, okay, that's just kind of bullshit too, right? Everybody else is blindly swallowing. I'd say you blindly swallowed a lot of cliche bullshit mannerisms and activities and cultural norms and your little stupid white t-shirty bullshit and your stupid fucking haircut. And your whole fucking existence is built on blindly accepting a bunch of cultural norms and cultural standards that are absolute fucking goddamn shit, idiot. So who are you to point your finger at anybody else and say you've blindly accepted? You've blindly accepted that goddamn a born baby probably is somehow more meaningful than an unborn one. That somehow its brain is hugely more advanced because now it's breathing oxygen. Well, that's kind of fucking idiotic. And if I stuck a goddamn, spear through its fucking head, I'm doing the same thing that somebody's having an abortion is goddamn doing, because it's the same goddamn creature, essentially. Alright, and it's certainly less of a creature than a fully adult chimpanzee that you would probably say it's okay to inject with goddamn cancer so you can get some kind of medical benefit. I mean, I can find 5 million cultural, dumb, idiotic norms that you have just accepted and that you don't have the balls to defend. And if I attacked you on each one of those cultural goddamn norms, you will run like a goddamn pussy from having to justify them. And if you have to justify them, you'll pull some bullshit out of your fucking pocket that is, you can't is from a fact. You can't judge nature because it doesn't have a brain. No, I can judge the fucking process. Again, I can judge the process and its product. Alright, if it builds a pile of shit, it doesn't matter whether it has a brain or not. It's still a pile of fucking shit.
When it's not well laid out, regardless of how you say, oh, he put this all in the book. No, he didn't.
He puts a lot in the argument, so if you're going to make some argument that he hasn't prefaced his argument with basically saying there are premises you have to start with. And here are my premises, okay? It sucks to have a steel rod shoved in your eyeball. It's just kind of a universal fact, and we all know it sucks. And even if you personally don't feel pain when somebody shoves a steel rod in your eyeball, you do understand that if it happens to somebody else, they are likely feeling horrible pain, and it's something to be goddamn avoided. So there's this huge giant leap of faith goddamn premise. Wow, how fucking bold is that? You people suck. You fucking value relativist assholes with your nonsense. You know what? We're smart enough to know what we are. We're sentient creatures. We feel. Some of those feelings are not good. It is the definition, in fact, of all negative and bad in the universe is related to some little sentient thing being harmed in some way. You can't describe to me a single value in this fucking cunt universe that isn't valuable only because it affects something that can have a good day or a bad day, a good experience or a bad experience. And without that, you've got nothing.
In the book, there's quite a bit of hand-waving. He gets into the topic, and he rephrases the questions, and he brings them out again. But then he begins an exclusion process, and uses the criteria of averages.
Well, he uses a criteria of functionality. We can say when the motor's on and when the motor's off. There's a line we can draw, and we can say, look, this is when the thing is not consuming more than it's producing, or this is when it's running at some sort of standard of efficiency. And we can put that line somewhere that's on that side of right. Okay, that's got it right. in 99.99999% of cases.
The criterion provided is unacceptable. Especially,
well, whatever. It's unacceptable. Yeah, it's unacceptable to just accept the truth. That it just because one cancer patient one time rubbed a toad on their forehead and their cancer went away, that isn't enough evidence. That's not good enough to put the toad theory into the theories that you're going to give reasonable attention to. No, you just discard it until it can come to the table with a little more credibility. And the whole pile of shit has got no credibility. They don't have any right at the goddamn table because what they're talking is absolute motherfucking nonsense.
In a large, diverse population. Now, the road to hell is paved in good intentions.
Oh. yeah, duh. The problem with that is the road to hell is also paved with people who want to go to hell. The road to hell is paved with no intentions. No intentions will get you to hell just as goddamn fast as a good intention. You know what I think? No intention is probably going to get you there even quicker. I mean, if you're going to wear a blindfold, you're going to fall into the fucking hell trap even faster. So blindfold wearing is just as bad as good intentions, at least just as bad, if you're going to critique it. So if the two choices are be a little bit decisive and be a fucking indecisive asshole who just sits on his ass, on his thumb, up his ass, yeah, I'm going to choose try to do something. Try to at least have good intentions.
It's an idiom. It's pretty well known. And this is an issue I have with
my glasses.
Ignorant atheism and Sam Harris's construct, although I wouldn't necessarily call Sam Harris an ignorant person.
Oh, man, he's just so preposterous. I wouldn't necessarily call him ignorant. Yes, I would kind of imply that he's poorly writer. He's a poor writer, draws excessively blah, blah, blah conclusions. I mean, fuck you. Fuck you, silly person. Argue the argument.
I would say that what he brings to the fore has value. But is it something that we should proselytize?
Oh, right. So that's the argument. Everybody's just minioning. They're not validating his argument, saying, yeah, that makes sense. We really can cut some of this down, and yeah, we really need to, because if we don't do some gleaning here, we're all going to end up going where the blindfolded people are taking us, and that's not going to be good. We shouldn't let the assholes. I mean, if you got a bunch of horses, right? You got 50 horses pulling your cart, and 2 of the horses are just kick-ass smart, and the rest of the horses are kind of dumbasses. I mean, you do the logic, man. You just put the fucking smarter horses in the front and the dumber horses in the back. It's not that complicated. Ought. You ought to put the dumb horses in the fucking back.
No. Because if your central tenet is the well-being of conscious creatures, and as Harris describes it, that well-being is directly linked to happiness.
I don't know if he uses the word happiness. I think he uses the word thriving. Okay, so he does let people kind of describe their own definition of thriving. I certainly wouldn't use that terminology. I would make it clearer. You can't use a word like happiness. That's just completely asshole, right? Nobody is fucking happy all the time. Come on, it's just a stupid way to describe what we are. We should have a different way to qualify that. I think my life is 10 times. I'm profiting. I'm way ahead. I've had 10 times more good experiences than bad. I would do the bad experiences of my life. I would do them 10 times over, and to get the good parts of my life. Let's see people do it that way. Let's see them argue it in that kind of context, where they measure the actual performance of their life. And unfortunately, though, we can never make them do that, right? We can never make them live those bad experiences 10 times, can we? They can just say they would do that, and they don't have to prove they would do that. So, and we know that people are pretty much compulsive liars, right? I mean, all of religion, compulsive liars, right? So, I mean, this is kind of a bullshit argument anyway, asking people whether they're happy. Who the fuck cares what they say? Because they're compulsive fucking liars.
Then what's to say that we shouldn't start removing people's brains from their skulls and sticking them in a vat of endorphins?
Right, who's to say we shouldn't have that conversation? Maybe that's the simple fucking truth of it. That there is no way to play this game but to just basically pull your brain out and shove it in happy juice. That might be the perfectly sensible response to this problem. And that's just the truth of it, asshole. You can pretend that you're doing this Shakespeare play and you've got laminated fluorescent suits that you're all wearing. And somehow the play is just so much better because you got laminated fluorescent suits. Okay? But yeah, somebody with a little bit of brains could say, no, it's really the same movie. I mean, whether it's in 3D or 4D or 15D, who the fuck cares? It's a movie and you get caught up in it and that's the syndrome. It's a soap opera and you watch the soap opera. All right, and you really don't need a 50-inch screen or a 20-inch screen or a 10-inch screen. It's all that shit is subjective, relative bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. The real meaning is in the experience. And the fact is, you can synthesize the experience all the way down to you basically just tip the brain into the beaker. That's right. Because that's all you've got, asshole. The rest of it is just a projection of your own ego saying, I'm doing something special. Well, no, you're really not. All right, and maybe a slug is having a better time than you, and you just don't know it because you've never been a slug.
In order to maximize that happiness and the well-being of that nervous system. The nervous system in a vacuum is not descriptive of interpersonal interaction.
Blah, 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 blah. And that's all a pile of crap. I mean, your interpersonal blah, blah, blah can all be synthesized. We do it every day. People play video games. They watch movies. Obviously, they're synthesizing their interpersonal relationships. So that's just bogus.
Chemical interactions and the materialist base of what we are can describe an individual and can describe the actions of the individual. But the amount of variables is huge. And
Says you. There's some other variable out there. There's no other variables. We are the game has been described, okay? It's this little chess game or whatever you want, checkers. It doesn't matter what level you put it on. And there's just this game played where pieces sacrifice each other, sacrifice those guys over there, the pawns. We could throw a few of those away. And it's just a game of attrition, and the thing's just wiping other things out to get their stuff. I mean, I can give you these crude definitions, descriptions of what's going on this planet. Really simple, and I don't think you can counter-argue any of it. All right, it's just a DNA molecule. And different variations of the DNA molecule just go out and try to steal the energy from other DNA molecules, from the arrangement, its little machinery. And then they do that. Even when they do that successfully, they still get smashed in the end anyway, just so they can keep playing the game over again, generation to generation. So it's just this idiotic thing where you build it up, you wipe it out. You build it up, you wipe it out. You build it up, you wipe it out. You're not building up anything. You're not going anywhere. You're not constructing anything. You're just creating little sentient beasts that have a need, a hunger. They run in the wheel, and then the wheel gets a little bit old. You smash it down, and you pop a new wheel runner in. There's nothing happening here that has any of this mystical hope of a grander purpose. Sorry, that's not going to happen. Your purpose is going to be to satisfy your stupid desires.
Harris admits this in his book and in his conversations, although it's very brief. I believe the way he puts it typically is, we can examine one person and see and find moral facts. And we can do it with two people and find the establishment of consensus morality. But then adding 6.7 billion people just makes the equation more complex. I agree with that.
Yeah, well, but the point is it's always going to come down to the fact that they are categoriable. You can put them in categories. of credibility. So the variations are all variations on how wrong they are. Maybe you could even do it by that extreme. How many wrong presumptions are built into its function? And just identify the presumptions. All right, the things that don't have any evidence, the things that are just assumptions or whatever you want to describe them, but the things that are completely contrived by notions and ego and other kinds of bullshit and have nothing to do with reality.
But to say that there is some way to quantify the moral system as
well, whatever. Yes, we can quantify. If this was an experiment, so let me do this one again. If this was a rat maze experiment and you were in a lab somewhere and you had this experiment that you were responsible for, and somebody asked you to justify it, you'd be able to justify it. You'd say, well, there's a certain number of these rats, and these are going to get the cheese, and these other rats are going to die, yeah, and they're going to die slow and horrible. Well, you'd attempt to justify it, but the point is that you'd be able to figure out what was valuable. You wouldn't just sit there and say, it's just rats running. Okay, I don't even think about them being sentient, and I can't possibly understand whether it's good or bad. Well, of course you can understand whether it's good or bad. You can certainly understand that the rats don't need to exist, that the experiment doesn't need to exist, and that any harm you're imposing is completely wasted harm because you're not accomplishing a goddamn fucking thing.
Science today? Absolutely not. Especially when we're going to use weasel words like human nature, as it's used in some cases. I've used it myself. Quantify human nature for me.
All right. Hunger, horny. Hunger, horny. Yeah, and ego. Hunger, horny, ego. Hunger, horny, ego. Ego's on top of horny, pretty much. Yeah, it's fucking horny. Ego is. Yeah, but that's it, asshole. You got something else?
It's often the question I hear, and I'd like my detractors to do the same. Quantify human nature, without exception. You can't.
Well, I don't know. What, you can't quantify the function of the organism? You can't quantify that it has these desires created by these elements of psychology and chemistry that are provoked by this overriding biological necessity. That this is the function, okay? It consumes enough to create a reproduction, a replication of itself that is capable of surviving into the future. So it's got to acquire not only the hardware skills, but the ability to use them when you're as niched as we are. Niched. And so, yeah, there's an investment of time that has to go into this whole procedure. You just don't, grab a little bit of chemistry and pop out one of these more complex creatures. But the complexity isn't an improvement necessarily on its survivability. It's just an improvement in a niche, okay, and an environment. And it's just layers of organisms doing that thing, okay, adding one more tool that makes them a little more effective. And yeah, evolution tends to add tools, not take tools away. That's sort of how it works. It doesn't have a very good eraser, but it's really good at adding more code on top through errors, like cancer. Yeah, it's good at adding, but it's not too good at subtracting. There's no like inverse cancer. What's the point here? Yeah, so look, yeah, our nature is not that hard to describe. The fundamental process is not hard to describe. We know what it is. It's a replicating DNA molecule. And we are basically the epigenetic extension of the replicating mechanism. And that's all we really are. It's a molecule that's evolving.
It's an unanswerable question, because the totality of information is not available.
Well, again, we know the totality. The totality is in Shakespeare's plays. We know what we are. We know how we basically function as psychologies. It's hunger, it's desire, it's addiction. That's what runs us. We need it to feel good, so we get it, so we feel good. That's not that complicated.
Now, in the day when the technology is cheap enough, we can all wear a helmet that runs a continuous fMRI on us, and perhaps we can figure out when people are upset and why they're upset. Perhaps at that point in time, maybe...
Well, we can already diagnose most of that already. We already know what upsets people and why it upsets them and how we are conditioned to like certain things and to need certain things and how we're nepotistic and nationalistic and racist and all these other things because of guttural conditioning. All right? Our basic functional mechanism is made to be, what's the word for that? Dissident. To be made to create cognitive dissonance when certain circumstances are introduced.
Harris's thought process will make more sense. But today it's very dangerous.
It says you. Again, very dangerous relative to what? Relative to the complete fucknuts driving the bus. I really don't know how you could even use the word dangerous when you look at the world we're in and the dangerousness of just letting the status quo continue.
Especially with an emergent phenomenon like society and morality.
Well, emergent phenomenon like society and morality. That's an interesting concept, but I guess I just don't really get it. It's so far behind. Society's morality is so far behind intellectual morality. I mean, intelligent people knew long before slavery was a crime that slavery was a goddamn crime. So let's not fool ourselves here. Society is way, way, way behind, and that's a real big problem in a world where, as you get closer to that peak, it gets narrower and narrower, and that's and the margin of error gets thinner and thinner. And that's sort of where we're at. It's like that's the tricky part.
That's really the way I see it, and I can't put it any more clearly than that without making it another 20-minute video.
Yeah, well, whatever. You didn't put anything clearly. Again, you just said in some sort of ambiguous terms that there's knowledge we don't have, therefore we can't draw conclusions. We can't is from our oughts, and we can't ought from our ises, and we can't know anything, and we can't say anything, and that's just bullshit.
Having the same bunch of assholes hop on it and say, you didn't read the book. I read the book several times. I've seen the lectures. I've attended some in person. I've asked questions.
Wow, you asked questions at a Sam Harris lecture? Maybe he would remember you and say, man, what an asshole that Dick Dork was. What the hell? What is he? He really thinks it's 1950, right?
You? I don't care that it's a pet philosophy for some people. That's great. And I think the variance in belief is excellent.
Yeah, whatever. Your whole video is this subtle critique of the character of the believers rather than the substance of the belief. Again, you're basically arguing that we don't have enough information to draw conclusions about what life is about, what the fuck we're doing here. No, we do know what we're doing here. All right? It is kind of just right in front of us now. And it is just a chase game. And the point is what's the chase about? And is there an efficient way to do your chasing? A lot more efficient than the way we're doing it now.
I like the way Vic Lundy addressed this video to me and spoke on the subject. And he has some very interesting constructs when it comes to moral realism. But I see just a large amount of detriment of trying to prescribe this. I mean, it is eugenics again.
Oh, whatever. I don't think there's any eugenics involved, and I haven't heard Sam Harris say those words. I mean, I think he knows that you don't genetically become intelligent, that intelligence is a byproduct of having an education and how you're conditioned. I think he knows that shit. Fuck it. I mean, the margins here, you don't need a big, giant brain. You really don't. To understand evolution. I mean, come on. One day, with a good tutor, and you're going to understand evolution.
Although, with an entirely different frame of reference, and perhaps more precise tools, but how precise are they? And how total is our knowledge? I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, what do you think? Again, why don't you give me some description of what we maybe don't quite fucking understand that's critically important? I mean, really. We can see what mammals do. We can see what we are from. We can see how we are basically using anything we get and we're turning it into a tool to gain our satisfaction. We can see the self-interest. We can see the nepotism. Can't you see the nepotism in the world? I mean, it's just glaring, isn't it? Is it rational? Does it make any sense? Is it purposeful? Is it functional to an intelligence? Is it something Mr. Spock would say, well, that makes perfectly good sense? No, it's something he would say, you're fucking idiots. It doesn't matter whether a baby's green or brown or purple or pink. It doesn't matter whether it came out of that vagina or that. It doesn't matter what its genetic code is. It is the consciousness, and it has an equal substance and value. Duh.
I'm pretty sure that the people in the field think it's nowhere near totality. Just as...
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure everybody agrees with me that it's nowhere... Oh, I'm just doing the everybody agrees with me thing, aren't I? Oh, yeah, I'm not supposed to do that.
You say about genetics today. And so when people sit down and forward this philosophy, it looks like race realism to me.
Well, then you're a retard. I'm sorry, that's just fucking retarded. I mean, it's exactly the opposite. It's recognizing exactly the disease that is the consequence of race realism. Race realism is a consequence of the very disease being described.
Way, I mean, not entirely, but it looks like the beginning of the 1800s.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll just associate it. This is like the Hitler card thing again, right? This is like, yeah, I'll just associate you with Stalin. Oh, it looks like Stalin to me. I'll just say that. Oh, you look like Stalin to me. Or you look like, whatever, Huckleberry Hound. And we all know he was a fucking lunatic.
Eugenics thought processes with the order ranking of people and the exclusion of some from governance, school, and all these other aspects of society that are considered important for the well-being of conscious creatures in Harris's framework. So what is it?
What is this? The plea from, please save me from the intellectuals. Yeah, right. Oh, this is just such a joke.
Message changed? Or has the data been found? Is there something we can point to that says, yes, this is where morality comes from, or this is how to create a better relative?
Yeah, he does that. He points it out that, yeah, we kind of know what falls on the fence, okay? There's this good stuff and there's bad stuff. I would argue that the good stuff is made out of the removal of bad stuff, but let's not even get into that. But yeah, that's all he's saying. They're saying there's good stuff and there's bad stuff. It's time we built the little fence down the middle of it, put it on one side or the other, and yeah, you can argue about this little fluffy stuff in the middle, but the real bulk of everything is either on that side or that side. And yeah, we can do that for 80% of everything.
Objective morality. And I'm entirely unconvinced. I'd like the folks who are convinced to tell me why.
Yeah, tell you why we know rape is bad. Why it has no realistic, probabilistic hope of ever doing anything value rich enough to justify the value harm it's likely and probably going to cause. So yeah, not complicated. You need more proof? I mean, shall I shove a screaming victim up your nose? I mean, what the fuck is this bullshit? Fuck, these value relativists are just so disgusting. I can't figure out if something's good or bad because maybe somebody likes to have shit shoved in their eyeball. Maybe. So, yeah, so I still can't figure out that most people don't want shit in their eyeball. Oh, man. And it's kind of important. that if you're going to shove shit in eyeballs, it's kind of important that 99.99% of people aren't going to like it, and only one is going to like it. And so you're going to impose bad on 99.99% because one is going to find it mildly interesting. No, you ought not to do that. You ought to be able to figure out that that's stupid. Okay. Enough of the video. Yeah, more than enough, of course.